Hello everyone, this is The Voice, and today we're going to talk about time travel. And more specifically, my theory on time travel. So for me, I kind of look at Back to the Future and Terminator and Doctor Who, and it really got me thinking, is that how time travel would really work? To me, time travel would be more or less you continue to travel through time. And how I mean that is, when you time travel, you don't de-age. You continue to get older because of the fact that you are getting older. So say I travel back to 1950. I will still be 30 years old. I hadn't been born yet in terms of timeline, but I will still be 30 years old. Okay, so that means I've displaced myself from my timeline and moved backwards in time. But technically, for me, I have still continued to move forward. So, in other words, even though it's 2020, 1950 is my future. I will continue to grow older. I will not de-age. And in my head, say my parents were born before 1950. Say they were like 1945. Well, no, because that would only make them 5 years old. Rewind. We'll say 1980. We'll say 1980. That would put my parents at an age in which they would meet each other. So say I went back 1980, found my parents, and ensured that they didn't get together. Well, here's the problem. Looking at Back to the Future and Terminator and all, that would mean that I wasn't born. So the events of me stopping them from getting together would cease to exist. So it creates a paradox. And this would mean that even though I caused those events to keep them from getting together, they would still get together because of the fact that I interfered. Well, me interfering would make it so that I didn't exist. So that would null and void the actions in which I took to stop them from getting together. And if that sounds a little confusing, it's because it kind of is. So, as I said, it creates a paradox. Well, if I stop my parents from getting together, then I would cease to exist, which would mean that I didn't stop them from getting together, which means they did get together. So it creates just this infinite loop of just me doing it and me not doing it, me doing it and me not doing it. The show Legends of Tomorrow showed that pretty well, actually. There was an episode in which Constantine found his father and went to do something to stop himself from being born. Well, when he went to do it, he blinked out. And when he blinked out, he didn't end up doing what he would have done to stop his dad from being able to have him. So it created an infinite loop of him trying to do it, not being able to do it, trying to do it, not being able to do it, because if he would have done it, he would have ceased to exist, which meant that he didn't do it. As I said, really confusing. But in my head, I would be able to stop my parents from getting together, which would mean that I stopped existing. But that's the thing. As I said, 1980 would be my future. So the actions that I took were part of my future. So that, because now I essentially live outside of my timeline. I went to a different timeline. We'll say different universe because it actually makes more sense saying different universe. I feel as though when I were to return to my time, so I go from 1980 to 2020, there's a chance I would run into myself. A version of myself in which never went back in time to change the events of the past. But because I'm now part of that timeline, because I'm now part of that parallel timeline, or parallel universe, I stopped my parents from getting together, so that means that I did not exist in that universe. So me traveling forward in time, I would continue to travel forward in that timeline, or that universe, and get to 2020, where I wouldn't exist in 2020. But I would exist because I'm from a different universe, or a different timeline. Kind of looking at Terminator, if we continue that paradox theory, the Terminator was not actually sent back in time to kill John Connor. He was sent back in time to ensure that Skynet was created, because Skynet was created based off of the destroyed parts of the Terminator. The Terminator was sent back as a guy under the guise of killing John Connor, so that there would be a Skynet. Kyle Reese was sent back to create John Connor. John Connor did that knowing that sending Kyle Reese, who he knew as his father, would create him when he met his mom. See, if Skynet truly was after killing John Connor, it would have traveled, it would have known exactly where Sarah was and gotten to her before Kyle Reese. The Terminator would have been able to kill Sarah if that truly was its goal. It was not its goal. Its goal was to be created, which would be through being sent back in time so that it could be destroyed, so that the parts could be found. That's the paradox theory, because say the Terminator actually did. Now they I haven't watched the new Terminator movie, but from my understanding, the Terminator does succeed in the new Terminator movie. As I said, didn't watch it. I'm not sure how they played that timeline. But that's the thing. In killing John Connor, there would have been no purpose in sending the Terminator back. So, the new movie kind of follows my theory, because the Terminator continued to exist after John Connor was killed. Now, you could say that time fixed itself and created another leader, which would be why the Terminator exists now. I don't know. Again, I haven't watched it yet. When I do watch it, I'll make an update video. But, as I said, to me, time travel isn't actually time travel. It is universe hopping. So, again, say I were to travel back in time and kill Hitler, stop World War II. Well, now I would be part of the timeline where World War II didn't happen. Because all the events that came from World War II now wouldn't have happened. So there's no knowing if I would exist, because, you know, I don't know if any of my ancestors went to World War II, died, if they lived through it, so on and so forth. I don't know what events would have unfolded from killing Hitler. Maybe not killing Hitler would have resulted in me being born. Killing Hitler might have caused a much bigger problem. There's no telling. But now I'm part of that timeline. Back to the Future kind of made a little nod to my theory in that things changed, but Marty still remembered his timeline. And most of the paradox theory style for time travel, Marty would have forgotten all of his previous memories, and they would have been replaced with the new timeline's memories. But because of the fact that he still remembers, that means that going back to 1955 Yes, 1955 was part of his future. He was meant to do that. So now he is part of a new timeline where his parents, well, they got together, became even more successful than they were in his previous timeline. Doc Brown is still alive. Him changing the past didn't actually change the past. It didn't change his future. It just moved him into a different universe. Just like when he went back to No, my bad. Just like when he went to the future, came back with the Sports Almanac, and Biff came back to the future with, went back to his past with the Almanac, gave it to his past self. Those events changed everything and brought Marty to a different universe when he traveled back to his time, when he tried to travel back to his timeline. Okay, anyway, that's enough of me ranting about time travel. If you've made it this far in the video, I really appreciate it. Please like and share. I'm going to post it on Facebook, but if you click on the video, please like the video through YouTube. I like that you like it on Facebook, but please like it on YouTube. Share it. Share the mess out of it. I really liked seeing in my previous video people were sharing it. It got me more views. I really appreciate that. I might not become famous off of this, but it makes me feel better seeing that people actually watched my stuff. So thank you guys, and I'll talk to y'all next time. This is The Voice. I'm out.